Part 50. Online games, only I can see hidden information. Author, Minjai Old Thief. Chapter 491. Kill the eighth demon god. Xuemeng was stunned, obviously he didn't expect that Shuro would say such cruel words. Do not make jokes. Xuemeng patted Ye Bai on the shoulder and said seriously. I know you feel uncomfortable, even if you want to rush into the demonic tide, I won't stop you. But don't even think about the eighth devil, he won't come out. In the previous fight, the other party launched a shameless sneak attack. Xuemeng gave the eighth demon god a hammer with his backhand, and the eighth demon god also felt uncomfortable. Ye Bai asked again. With the help of the most powerful demon god, he has reached level 1000, right? Right. Xuemeng nodded and explained. Because of the power he had just gained, he was not yet proficient in controlling it, and he received another powerful blow from me, which was enough for him to recuperate for decades. The eighth demon god, after being seriously injured, has a level 1000 level, far beyond what the demon ancestor can compare to. Since Ye Bai can single-handedly kill the 1000 level demon ancestor, it's no big deal to him that he's just a seriously injured eighth demon god. Wait a minute, I'll think of a way to awaken for the third time first. Ye Bai took out the remaining eye wash materials and prepared to do it. Tip: do not wash your eyes repeatedly for less than 24 hours. Moderate eye wash is good for your health. Ye Bai thought for a while and wrote a line of words on the paper. How to awaken for the third time in half an hour. If Tanyan couldn't give any hints, Ye Bai was going to give it a try. 1. Ask the strongest for help. There are two conditions for Tanyan's third awakening: level 407 days of eye washing. Ye Bai started to wash his eyes very early, and his level has exceeded 400. However, there is still a long way to go before the requirement of 7 days of eye wash. As for the issue of time, generally speaking, finding a Wuhan doctor can cure the problem. Mr. Lan next door lived to be 800 years old in one breath. He was in great health and ate delicious food. Ye Bai shook his head and rejected this method. Normally, he would consider doing this. The war is urgent. Although there is no news from the second brother, no news is the biggest bad news. Ye Bai wants to help, not to be a disservice, nor to be a hindrance. A new prompt appeared in front of my eyes. 2 forced eye wash requires 3 times the materials, 21 parts. After forced awakening 3 times, hundreds of millions of small hidden dangers will be left. Looking at the final prompt, Ye Bai only had one question. Will he die? No, but Ye Bai simply ignored the rest of the content. Taking out the trading secret realm pass, Ye Bai immediately sent a message to Zhao Qian. 21 of the materials on the list. Bookkeeping. Not long after the 2 messages showed that they had been read, the space in front of Ye Bai shook slightly, and an eternal gold coin fell. In the middle of the gold coin is a storage ring, which contains exactly the materials Ye Bai needs. Everything was ready, but Ye Bai did not rush to wash his eyes first, but turned around and took care of the business of the trip first. Standing in front of rows of coffins, Ye Bai bowed with his hands in hand. Excuse me. After saying that, the shadow pattern flew out of his sleeves and suspended in mid-air. Ye Bai pulled out the Heavenly King sword and slashed forward. Death. The surrounding remnant souls were attracted by the shadow pattern, gathered one after another, and poured into the shadow pattern. At the same time, the fatal effect was also triggered. Scenes of phantoms emerge. The enemy is facing us, we will fight to the death. The few onlookers around were moved by it. They are battle-hardened warriors who have seen life and death, hanging their heads on their belts every day. Even so, when I saw these pictures, I still couldn't help but get red-eyed. Wisps of remnant souls are collected into shadow patterns. After being collected, the corresponding remains will be sent back to Blue Star and buried in the eternal forest. There are fewer and fewer coffins in the open space, and the remaining souls are gradually becoming rarer. Only a few powerful gods of war are left. It will take some time. At the same time, the members of the Nightmare and Wuhan legions were also retreating in an orderly manner. On the battlefield, the most lethal moments do not occur during the offensive and defensive phases, but during the retreat. If you are not careful, it will turn into a rout. After leaving the necessary manpower behind, the rest all withdrew. The defense line that was finally knocked down seemed a bit empty. The last remnant soul also entered the shadow pattern, and the shadow pattern fell back into Ye Bai's palm. There was some fatigue in his brows. Let's go. Xuemeng picked up the sledgehammer and prepared to retreat. Previously, when Shura wanted to kill the eighth demon god, he only regarded it as an angry talk. Killing the demon god, when can't you kill him? When Shura becomes the strongest, he can kill as much as he likes. Now, I can only endure it for a while and change to a calm situation. What Xuemeng didn't expect was that Shura had no intention of enduring it. Ye Bai opened his mouth and asked Xuemeng a very crucial question. If I kill the eighth demon god, can you protect me and survive? Yes, yes, but... Before Xuemeng finished speaking, he was interrupted by Ye Bai raising his hand. For him, being able to survive is enough. Xuemeng could see that Shura would not give up if he didn't let Shura give it a try. You all should go first, leaving me and him here. Xuemeng asked the others to leave first. As long as he was there, Shura's life would not be in danger. From the standpoint of the human race. As for the eighth demon god who has completely surrendered to the most powerful demon god, it is natural to quickly eliminate him. If Shura really has a way to kill the eighth demon god, it will definitely be a great thing. To take a step back, even if Xuemeng failed to succeed, it would not be a loss if he accompanied Shura to be frivolous once. At least, Shura can have this attitude, which is a good thing for the human race, not a bad thing. Ye Bai dropped the eyewash ingredients into his eyes one by one. At first it felt refreshing, then there was some burning pain, and finally the tears flowed uncontrollably. After using 21 ingredients in a row, Ye Bai's eyes were swollen like steamed buns. The prompt in front of me has also changed from Microsoft and black on the 5th to bold and dark on the 2nd. The third awakening of the most powerful talent in history. Pain. It hurt so much. For the next battle, Ye Bai forcibly awakened 3 times in exchange for an overall improvement in the Eye of Insight. His next opponent is the 1000 level 8th demon god, and he only has one chance to make a move. If you miss it, you can only let De Menzi take you to escape. With red and swollen eyes, Ye Bai walked towards the outside of the defense line. Xuemeng followed him, never leaving. If you want to kill the 8th demon god, you have to find him first. That guy suffered a loss in my hands and won't come out. Even after reaching this point, Xuemeng was still trying to persuade Shura. This is not the battlefield that level 499 is supposed to be on. Even the strongest seed, at level 499, does not have the strength to kill a level 1000 player alone. Don't say anything else. Xuemeng presented the facts and reasoned. How did you find the 8th demon god? This is simple. Ye Bai shook his cloak slightly, and a cat and a dog emerged from under his cloak. The cat and the dog were flying into the air with a speaker in their mouths. Ye Bai took out a microphone and tried the sound. Hey, hey, can you hear me? The sound spread and attracted the attention of countless monsters. Tell the big guy something. Ye Bai's voice was very calm, with a hint of murderous intent. I am Shura. 4 words echoed over the abyss. In an instant, all the monsters in the 8th abyss went berserk. Online games, only I can see hidden information. Author, Minjai Old Thief. Chapter 492. 4 words made the whole abyss run rampant for me. The moment the sound spread, Countless monsters lost their minds and rushed to where Ye-Bai was at all costs. Even though Ye-Bai had been mentally prepared, he couldn't help but confirm with Xuemeng again at this time. "Are you sure it's okay?" "No problem." Xuemeng swung his hammer casually, and a blast of hammer wind blew through, clearing away all the monsters in front of him. Even a 9th level god of war monster was exploded by his hammer. Use practical actions to prove your reliability. But this is the 8th abyss after all, and the monsters are almost endless. After being polluted by the aura of the most powerful demon, the monsters here became more than 10 times more powerful. Even the 2 most elite legions of the human race chose to retreat after assessing the comparison of strength. One can imagine how terrifying the demonic tide in front of him is. If other 9th level gods of war were to come over, the demonic tide would easily swamp them with just one impact. Only a strong general like Xuemeng can protect Shuro without worrying about his own safety. What's next? Xuemeng looked at Shuro with a questioning look. Now Shuro's eyes are swollen like light bulbs. Looking at him from a distance, those who don't know think he is in Cos Ultraman. Fly high and see far. Ye-Bai's words caused the entire abyss to go berserk, but the 8th demon god would never give up. If the 8th demon god wasn't greedy and wanted to hide, he might even escape from the 8th abyss. Then Ye-Bai really didn't have any good way to deal with the other party. But Ye-Bai is betting that the other party is greedy. A being who is willing to betray himself to the most powerful demon god is definitely a gambler. For the most powerful demon god, the most powerful seeds are an irresistible temptation. If you can capture Shura, kill him, and offer him to the most powerful demon, the rewards you'll get are beyond imagination. Ye-Bai declares his family name, the 8th demon god will definitely not be able to bear it. Without saying a word, Xuemeng took Ye-Bai up into the air. At the same time, he used a bloody giant hammer in his left hand and Fang Tian's halberd in his right hand. If a god blocked it, he would kill a god, and if a Buddha blocked it, he would kill a Buddha. With Xuemeng's help, Ye-Bai's eyes swept back and forth in the demonic tide, looking for the target. Target locked. The Eye of Insight, which was forced to awaken 3 times, began to target Ye-Bai. Without preparations before the war, the 8th demon god would be hidden in the demonic tide and completely impossible to find. In the past, the 8th demon god was the most powerful existence in this abyss, with nowhere to hide. But now the 8th abyss is polluted by the breath of the most powerful demon, and there are many monsters above level 990. On the contrary, it provides cover for the 8th demon god, giving him a chance to bluff around. But in front of the 3rd awakening Eye of Insight, it is invalid, it is invalid, it is all invalid. You can't hide it from me. The target is roughly locked and analysis can begin. After awakening for the 3rd time, the Eye of Insight comes with the official version of the Sage mode, which takes it to a higher level in terms of analytical capabilities. To some extent, the Eye of Insight is a very special talent. Its crumbs are not its own crumbs, but are limited by the master's strength. If Ye-Bai was still at level 1, the Eye of Insight would directly place the information of the most powerful demon in front of Ye-Bai's eyes. Ye-Bai simply couldn't bear it, and his intelligence level plummeted on the spot, chasing after the self-destruction guy. Information is a double-edged sword. Some information requires corresponding strength to understand. The same is true for the information corresponding to the 8th demon god. When he is below level 400, if Ye-Bai knows too much information about the devil, it will contaminate himself. Now, Ye-Bai, who is level 499, no longer has this worry. After a while, a new reminder appeared in front of Ye-Bai's eyes. The 8th demon god, the chosen demon god, was a member of the Desolate race. Before becoming a demon he failed to attack the position of the Desolate ancestor and fell into the abyss. Hiss. When Ye-Bai saw the word Desolate, his eyelids jumped. Ye-Bai was very strange when he killed the demon ancestor alone. He was clearly fighting against the ancestor of demons, so why did the third brother teach him how to deal with desolate calamity? It was precisely because of this that Ye Bai held back and did not come up to throw Wang Jia. Ye Bai didn't understand until the moment he locked onto the eighth demon. It turns out that this is a disaster. There is only one chance to use the phone. After using it, the strongest eye will enter the sleep period. Skill lock countdown. 5, 4, 3. In front of Ye Bai's eyes, like an old movie, a countdown lit up. Get ready. Ye Bai warned De Menzi to be ready to take him away at any time. He folded it and was ready to go, just waiting for the last second to arrive. 1. Locked. Reproduction mode, ready. Ye Bai didn't hesitate at all, and countless thunder elements rushed towards the tip of the power of nature. At this moment, Ye Bai almost yelled two words with all his strength to enhance his output. Desolation. Calamity. Boom. A bolt of white lightning blasted forward, accurately hitting a seemingly weak being, seriously injuring it in an instant. Xuemeng carried Ye Bai, who was as angry as silk, and ran away wildly while looking back to observe the results of the battle. Not killed. From Xuemeng's point of view, after the eighth demon god was hacked by desolate tribulation, there was still a glimmer of hope. If there was no need to escort Shura, relying on Xuemeng himself, he would be sure to hammer the opponent to death. It's a pity that it can't be hammered. Shura's life is important. Ye Bai, who was carried on Xuemeng's shoulders, coughed up blood and kept coughing. The desolate tribulation was so fierce that it was not on the same level as the infinite tribulation. Even Ye Bai paid a high price in order to successfully recreate the desolate tribulation and accurately hit the eighth demon god. Don't worry. Ye Bai spat out a mouthful of blood and said intermittently. Let Huang Ji fly for a while. Ye Bai didn't have confidence in himself, but in his third brother Xiaoao. Since Xiaoao handed over the disaster to himself, it meant that Xiaoao had considered a certain possibility. And Ye Bai's desperate move made what was only a slim possibility become a reality. Ye Bai has completed his mission. The rest, just leave it to Xiaoao. Behind the two of them, in the demonic tide, the eighth demon god who had been severely injured was dying. Only the last bit of the abyss origin protected him with life. The eighth demon god was trembling all over, his whole body was dominated by fear, and his limbs could not move. He almost died. This is the closest the eighth demon god has come to death in the past 100 years. Fortunately, he resisted. Just give him enough time and he will soon. Just as the eighth demon god was thinking this, the whole world seemed to become quiet. He seemed to have withdrawn from the battlefield and entered an independent space, and time became extremely slow. A butterfly appeared in front of the eighth demon god. The moment the butterfly appeared, it attracted his full attention. The black butterfly is still in the air, speaking human words. Maybe, you're dead. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Online games, only I can see hidden information. Author, Minjai Old Thief. Chapter 493. The eighth demon god is probably really dead. When his consciousness returned to reality, it dissipated bit by bit between heaven and earth like fly ash. At the moment when the eighth demon god died, the situation between heaven and earth suddenly changed. Countless powerful monsters began to attack each other, bite each other, and compete for each other's abyss origin. Even the demonic tide chasing Shura was like a castle made of sand, collapsing at the first touch. Xuemeng immediately noticed the strange thing behind him. His face was full of surprise and he shook Shura on his back. Dead. Really dead. Puff. Ye Bai spit out a mouthful of blood and said feebly. If you shake it again, I will die too. Forcibly awakened 3 times, locked onto the eighth demon god, and overdrawn using desolate tribulation. After doing these three things, it is already a miracle that Ye Bai is still alive. While Do Menzi was running away, Ye Bai took out various potions and poured them into his mouth for free, just to save his own life. As for the eighth demon god, Ye Bai no longer cares about it. Everything that can be done has been done. If you still can't kill the opponent, then save it for later. In fact, the third brother did not disappoint Ye Bai. Seeing the movement of the abyss monster, the eighth demon god was already chilled. Due to the death of the eighth demon god, the monsters of the eighth abyss fell into chaos. They frantically compete for the origin of the abyss to obtain the favor of the eighth abyss and become the new eighth demon god. This chaos will last for a while until a new demon god is born, and it will not calm down. Xuemeng glanced back reluctantly, feeling a little regretful. If there is no need to escort Shura, Xuemeng himself, plus the two most powerful legions, can completely walk sideways in the leaderless eighth abyss. If you are lucky, it is not impossible to directly purify the eighth abyss. Unfortunately, Shura's life is at stake. And Xuemeng knew very well that the most powerful person needed to decide whether the eighth abyss should be purified or not. Right now, the two of them have only one thing to do. Run away. Big fierce guy. Where are we going now? Xuemeng took long strides and escaped from the pursuit range of the demonic tide without slowing down at all. Back to Blue Star, Eternal Forest. Killing the eighth demon god this time has far exceeded expectations and achieved a miraculous feat. In Xuemeng's opinion, just give up when things are good, and you will definitely make a profit without losing anything. No. Ye Bai's face was a little pale, but his spirits had improved a lot. The most important thing is that because the eye of insight fell into a deep sleep, Ye Bai's eyes have become swollen, ending the happy time of Cos Ultraman. To the seventh abyss. Xuemeng was shocked. Why are you going there? Do you plan to kill the seventh demon god as well? Although he asked this question, Xuemeng still followed Shura's instructions, turned around and rushed towards the seventh abyss. Listening to Xuemeng's words, Ye Bai rolled his eyes helplessly. If I had this ability, I would have gone to the 99th floor and stood shoulder to shoulder with third brother. The loss of the seventh and eighth abyss at the same time was like a bolt from the blue to the human race. Ye Bai, who holds the shadow pattern in his hand, needs to go to the two abyss as usual to collect the remaining souls and let the British souls return to their hometown. This was originally what Yingju should do. With Yingju's strength and the vastness of the abyss, where can't he go? However, Yingju ran away, and this responsibility fell on Ye Bai's shoulders. Since he still has fighting power and is protected by Xuemeng, it makes sense to go to the seventh abyss to finish the work. The most important thing is that Ye Bai wants to create a bug. Before setting off on this trip, when Ye Bai was chatting with Xiaoyao, third brother once told Ye Bai that his life would be safe during this trip to the abyss. In other words, as long as Ye Bai doesn't return to Blue Star from the abyss, he won't die no matter what. Ye Bai decided to take a gamble and believe in Xiaoyao. Of course Xuemeng didn't know Shura's little thoughts. He was only responsible for carrying Shura and running away. While Ye Bai was taking a nap, Xuemeng ran from the eighth abyss to the seventh abyss in one breath. Just as he broke into the seventh abyss, a sword energy came towards him and was swatted away by Xuemeng. The sword energy flew 3 centimeters past Ye Bai's head, almost injuring his hair. Ye Bai suddenly woke up with a start, his hair standing on end. Big Menzi, can you do it? What are you afraid of? I didn't hit you. Xuemeng waved his hand and said casually. You still have Qing Tianqing. Ye Bai woke up and immediately looked around and found that the entire seventh abyss had turned into a sword prison. The 9 sword slaves stood in different directions, echoing each other, forming a majestic sword array. The sword array continuously generates sword energy and strangles the newly born monsters. Even the 9th level God of War monster cannot survive in the sword array for more than 3 seconds. When the seventh abyss turned into a prison of swords, In the sky, a swordsman in white fights 9 demonic shadows alone without losing. Without the assistance of the eye of the most disdain, Yabai was unable to judge the strength of these monsters. From this perspective, the most disdainful eye seems to be somewhat useful. Add 1. Xuemeng saw Shura's doubts and explained for him. 4 are level 994, 4 are level 999, and there is the 7th demon god who is level 1000. Hiss. Looking at it this way, the second brother is really punished. Not good. Xuemeng frowned slightly, looking a little gloomy. The longer the battle lasts, the worse it will be for my father. With that said, he prepared to send Shura back to Blue Star and return to the battlefield. Don't make any noise, don't make any noise. Yabai interrupted Xuemeng and asked instead. Have you seen Father Lan? A big question mark appeared above Xuemeng's head. Daddy Lan. Yabai cleared his throat. Ahem, I mean, Senior Blue Banished Sword Immortal. Oh, let me look for it. Xuemeng quickly found Lan Bangxian, who was sitting on the throne of the Demon Emperor's palace drinking wine, adjusting the position of the sword array from time to time. Xuemeng said truthfully. Taking fish. That's okay. Yabai knew what was going on and showed a smile that was familiar to Xuemeng. I'll make a bet with you. I won't fight. I won't fight even if I kill you. Xuemeng's attitude was very firm, and he kept saying it again and again. How could he suffer twice here? Besides, when is this happening? Why are you still thinking about his little wool? Listen to me first. Yabai said quickly. I can kill the 7th demon god with just one word. Do you believe it? Xuemeng was doubtful. Do you have another disaster? Gone. After receiving the reply, Xuemeng hesitated and said intermittently. Then I believe it. Even if Shura said a word to kill the most powerful demon, Xuemeng would believe it. Thank you so much for eating. If you gain wisdom by taking a step, Xuemeng is now full of intelligence. I do not believe. Lan Bangxian appeared beside the two of them, looked at the weak Shura, and said. If you win, I'll teach you the 4th way to hold the sky back. Make a deal. After getting the lottery, Yabai immediately shouted at the top of his voice. Second brother. The 8th demon is dead. Died. 8 words reached the ears of the swordsman in white. Wilhen raised his eyebrows slightly. Dead. Brush. A sword light cut off 9 demonic figures, causing serious injuries one after another. The swordsman in white appeared in front of the 7th demon god, Hung Jian, and said casually. This sword was intended to kill you all. Wilhen's tone was a little regretful. Since the 8th demon god is dead, I can only kill you twice. Online games, only I can see hidden information. Author, Minjai Old Thief. Chapter 494. The 9 demonic shadows disappeared into thin air. After one sword strike, the world becomes clear. The 7th demon god went to celebrate the Qingming festival with the 8th demon god. Sheathing his sword, the swordsman in white turned around and looked at Yabai and the others. Wilhen didn't move, but Yabai appeared in front of Wilhen. His eyes fell on Yabai. Wilhen chuckled and said. Interesting guy. Yabai's inner shock could not be described in words. Having just casually killed the 7th demon god, to the second brother, it was as casual as throwing away the trash when going out for breakfast. Wilhen spoke again. Tell me, how did the 8th demon god die? Obviously. In Wilhen's plan, he would wait until everyone in the 8th abyss had evacuated before drawing out his sword, which would save some money. With one sword, he directly killed the 7th and 8th demon gods. An accident happened. Shura brought news that the 8th demon god was killed. This also makes Wilhen no need to hide, he can directly draw his sword and end the battle. Xuemeng briefly explained what happened. After hearing the story of Shura's single-handed killing of the 8th demon, even Lan Bangxian was a little moved. Xiaoao, so strong. Obviously, even Lan Bangxian does not have a clear idea of how powerful the third most powerful person in the human race is. It's really strong. Wilhen nodded slowly and said. About 80% of my strength when I was at my peak. Yeah, bye. Second brother, these words sound familiar. Yeah, bye also received similar comments when he challenged Wilhen Shuiying. How shameless. What's even more shameless is that after hearing Wilhen's comments, Lan Bangxian actually echoed. That's really strong. Enough. This praised duo at the peak of Kendo really knows how to complement each other. Now that the seventh demon god has been killed, the crisis in the seventh abyss will naturally be resolved. Wilhen looked at Shuemeng and suddenly said. I heard you say before that Shura understood the sword move called Death Burial. In the eighth abyss, in order to gather the remaining souls, Yebai used this trick, and Shuemeng was also there. Shuemeng nodded, yes, this is indeed the case. Yebai was also a little surprised. Why did the second brother suddenly mention this matter? Wilhen then asked. Have you learned it? Yebai. I didn't expect you to be such a fierce guy. Could it be that Shuemeng also has the eye of reincarnation? Unexpectedly, he has the same type of talent as me. How can you be so embarrassed to learn from me secretly? Shuemeng scratched his head and said embarrassedly. We still have to talk about the technology property rights protection law. Wilhen shook his head. It's okay. Since he can call me second brother shamelessly, it won't be a loss if you learn a skill from him. Second brother really doesn't regard himself as an outsider. Shuemeng looked at Yebai, and after receiving the agreement, he closed his eyes and recalled for a moment. Well, I've learned it now. Hiss. Yebai suddenly realized that Shuemeng was not using his SS-level talent to learn swordsmanship, but his terrifying combat talent. This belongs to the factory configuration and is fully loaded. Humanoid learning sword machine? Okay, use it and let me take a look. After listening to his adoptive father's words, Shuemeng's brows lit up and he was about to draw his sword. Just listen to Wilhen say coldly. Use a hammer. Play with a hammer. Swinging the bloody sledgehammer, Shuemeng's face was full of resentment. Yebai took out the shadow pattern smoothly. Now, if he insists on losing his life to collect the remaining souls, the effect will not be very good. Now that Shuemeng was going to demonstrate how to slay one's life, it was a good opportunity for Yebai to make a fortune. Shadow patterns were suspended in the air, Shuemeng looked solemn, and waved the giant hammer in his hand. Death. More than 1,000 human heroic spirits were drawn out by him and sealed into the shadow patterns. The whole process went smoothly and took less than 5 seconds. You must know that it took Yebai several minutes to successfully seal the remnant soul of a 9th-level war god. Shuemeng sighed, one step to the finish, clean and neat. Big fierce man, so terrifying. Shuemeng put away his sledgehammer, and Yebai looked at Lan Bangxian, waiting for him to speak. Praise. You are so complimentary. Aren't you usually the best at praising others? After being stared at by Yebai for almost half a minute, Lan Bangxian finally opened his mouth. Yawn. That's it? Show him how sleepy he is. Yebai. Yebai finally understood. Father Lan is banished to immortals, he is a double-standard man. From him onwards, the swordsmanship is mediocre. From him onwards, the swordsmanship is amazing to everyone. Looking at the entire world, only the traceless sword can overwhelm Lan Bangxian. In other words, Lan Bangxian is Wilhen's exclusive fan. Instead, Wilhen opened his mouth. This sword is a bit interesting. As he spoke, he stood up and walked forward, asking at the same time. Shura, what good equipment do you have on you? Equipment. Yebai is professional when it comes to shearing wool. Second brother is trying to help him seal the remnant soul on his equipment. Nightmare wind. This is Yebai's rare SSS level equipment. This is not okay. Wilhen explained. This is Nightmare's equipment after all. Power of nature. No, it's more appropriate to keep your own SSS level equipment and seal it yourself. It's a fake corpse. The seventh demon god on the phantom made a move. Second brother, is sealing the remaining soul of the seventh demon god? The remnant soul stirred up countless black winds, fell on the heavenly king's sword, and was easily sealed. In the second case, the remaining soul does not cooperate. The swordsman in white put his right hand on the hilt of the sword casually, raised his head slightly, and made a slightly confused voice. The heavenly king's sword initially followed the human king Shueju, then fell into the hands of Wilhen, and is now in the hands of the mage Shura. The originally clear sky and earth were filled with strong winds, flying sand and rocks, and a foul atmosphere. With Yebai's current strength, even if he could seal the 9th level war god, he could only seal Su Qingfeng. Just like Yebai sealed Cain before, the strength of the opponent's 9th level war god can still be sealed by Yebai. Sword of the Heavenly King. 2 proposals in a row were rejected by Wilhen. The phantom of the 7th demon god appeared out of thin air. He is fighting the swordsman in white. The meaning of swordsman is very simple. Yebai thought for a moment and realized that he didn't have much equipment in his hands. If the strength is not enough, the remnant soul may turn against the guest and take this opportunity to cause trouble. This is not bad. The sword can suppress all demons. The devil was completely defeated. At this time, the user's strength is particularly tested. With that said, Wilhen took another step forward, letting the breeze blow by. The second brother can kill the 7th demon god once, and he can kill the 7th demon god a second time. In the first case, the remnant soul actively cooperates, which does not consume much of itself at this time. The remnant soul of the 7th demon god attempted to go berserk the moment it appeared. What the hell? The 7th demon god's remnant soul, no, I don't want to. Then hit it until it cooperates. Facing the provocation of the swordsman in white, the remnant soul of the 7th demon god gave his response as a demon god. There are 2 situations when the death-killing skill is activated. Do you really want to be beheaded again? Let's switch to Wilhen, things are getting interesting. Yebai suddenly realized what was happening in front of him and blurted out. Oh! God, have the dignity of God. Not only did Yebai not panic, he even wanted to laugh. Online games, only I can see hidden information. Author, Minjai Old Thief. Chapter 495. The remnant soul of the 7th demon god was sealed in the heavenly king's sword. Yebai was amazed and said it was so satisfying. When the heavenly king's sword returned to Yebai's hand, its weight increased more than 10 times. This bronze sword has a complicated magic pattern on the top of the hilt. As for the current attributes of the heavenly king's sword, Yebai can't see it for the time being. Without the most disdainful eyes, many things will be inconvenient. The first hour that Eye of Disdain was offline, I thought about it. He estimated to be back online in 24 hours. Yebai put away the heavenly king's sword. This trip was full of rewards, the set goal was successfully completed, and the 7th demon was killed. There are flowers everywhere, even for eating and taking. After sealing the remaining soul of the 7th demon god, Wilhen's figure seemed to fade a little. Yebai frowned slightly, not sure if it was his own eyesight or a side effect of overdraft. Wilhen, who sheathed his sword, came over and asked again. You awakened 3 times. What are the hidden dangers? We don't know yet. Yebai said truthfully. If I can find someone to help solve the problem, I will definitely help. If it doesn't work, I will find a solution myself. Shuemang, Lan Bangxian? Before you speak, can you listen to what you are saying? Isn't the logic of normal people to think of a solution first, and then to convince others? How did you get here to Shura? I will rock anyone who has legs, and I will hold them if they have legs. You can lie down but never sit down, and you can mess around but never see. However, Shura, who understood how to play the gangster, still spoke so confidently. Wilhelm nodded and praised. G. In Wilhelm's opinion, there was nothing wrong with what Shura said. The human race has gone through hundreds of years of ups and downs, overcoming thorns, and only now has the opportunity to cultivate and recuperate. At this time, what kind of education should we do to educate ourselves about setbacks and be grateful for the suffering? That's pure cerebral palsy. As the saying goes, if you don't take medicine when you are sick, you are not taking medicine. I fought bloody battles in the abyss so that future generations could win. If you artificially increase the difficulty for yourself, what else is it if it's not cerebral palsy? After praising Shura, Wilhelm turned around and walked towards the abyss, with the sword slave following behind him. Send them off. Good. Lan Bangxian nodded in agreement and escorted Ye Bai back to the ninth abyss. On the way, Lan Bangxian rarely took the initiative to speak. My son should have already looked for you. Ye Bai was stunned and immediately realized what Father Lan was talking about. Mr. Lan had approached Ye Bai once before, and what he said was related to Wilhelm's injury. At that time, Mr. Lan asked Ye Bai to help him after awakening for the third time. Ye Bai nodded, yes. When you solve the hidden dangers of the third awakening, you can come to us in the first abyss. Lan Bangxian explained. After this battle, the seventh abyss will return to the Eternal Tower, and the eighth abyss will be taken over by the ninth demon god. Ye Bai calculated in his heart that there were 13 abyss in total. Those still alive today include 1st, 2nd, 5th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th. In other words, since Shura appeared in the world, the 13 abyss demon gods have suffered heavy casualties, and 5 of them have died. Shura is truly worthy of being the nemesis of the devil. Among these abyss demon gods who are still alive, don't worry about the 5th demon god. The 9th demon god is considered a self-demon to a certain extent. The demons ranked 10 and above are all rotten shrimps. From this point of view, only the great demon god and the second demon god pose a threat to the human race. If these two demon gods decide to join the most powerful demon god, the situation will be very difficult. It is precisely because of this that, from now on, the most powerful Wilhelm will lead his sword slaves to guard the first abyss. After thinking about the joints, Ye Bai nodded and said solemnly, understood. We're here, go down by yourselves. Lan Bangxian sent the two of them outside the ninth abyss, turned around and left. Under the cover of Shuemang, Ye Bai reunited with Ying Si and returned to the battlefield. From the perspective of other students, Ye Bai has been cleaning up the battlefield and has gained a lot. Ye Bai returned to the ninth abyss, feeling a little tired. He fought in various abyss one after another, and even single-handedly killed the 8th demon god. It was normal to be a little tired. A second shadow sneaked into Ye Bai's shadow. Fourth master, fourth master. Second master Ying called cordially. Third brother is gone. Will I take his place in the future and protect the best fourth master? That's not necessary. Ye Bai rubbed his temples and lowered his voice and said. On the one hand, I won't be entering the abyss anytime soon, so I don't need bodyguards for the time being. On the other hand, you have new tasks to do. Great. Second Master Ying cheered, revealing his true thoughts. By the way, weren't you upset about the travel expenses before? Ye Bai showed a kind smile and said seriously. I had a good talk with your father. Your father fostered you here and paid for it? Etc. Second Master Ying's voice trembled slightly, as if he was thinking of some not-so-good situation. Fourth Master, do you mean? Ye Bai nodded, confirming Ying Er's guess. Have you ever seen anyone who goes to kindergarten and still gets paid? In the shadow, The second master and the bad girl burst into tears. Yabai said seriously. You two are only 8 years old. If anyone knows that I hired an 8-year-old demon to work, they will report me. This time, the attempt to seek death failed again. The crying in the shadow gradually subsided, and the second master Ying whispered. Stop crying. I'm kidding you. When talking about second master Ying's father, Yabai remembered something and couldn't help but be curious. Wool harvesting is all about sustainable development. The middle-aged man wearing a dragon robe had a gloomy face and was covered with clouds. It's been 100 years since we ran away from home. The fifth demon slowly returned to his own abyss. Then, a cake slowly appeared in front of the fifth devil. The moment he sat down, 2 salutes sounded, and countless fireworks flew in the demon emperor's palace. Don't worry, your money will not be less. I wish Dad good health and our family a long life. The second master Ying and the bad woman spoke at the same time, both male and female spoke in unison. Moreover, if Ying Er and the others are not paid wages, how can Yabai take advantage of them? Fresh cream cake, very delicious. There are so many dead demons, why can't there be one more of me? On the cake, 2 lines of words were written in red sugar water. Yabai couldn't really have deducted all of Master Ying's salary. After the sheep is slaughtered, where can the wool be collected? The fifth demon is itching with hatred. Could it be that you were beaten stupid by Dad? When many strong men from the human race left, especially that one, his eyes no longer looked behind the fifth abyss. The 9th level god of war demon bear who was responsible for guarding the door was missing. The entire demon emperor's palace was in a mess, and all valuable things had been moved away. We have a surprise for Dad. Yabai patted his chest and promised. Master Ju told us back then that working in shadow would be a blessing because he could clear the shopping cart. Now it's better, the blessing is gone. Lao Chi and Lao Ba, are they both dead? The fifth abyss. Bad woman, is this a fake Shura? He is willing to give us money. What did you do when you got home? Thinking of this, he walked back to his demon emperor's palace. The fifth demon god ignored these and walked straight to the cold throne. The bad woman cries extra loudly. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Online games, only I can see hidden information. Author, Minjai Old Thief. Chapter 496. It turns out this is a surprise. Yabai seemed to have figured out how surprising the fifth demon god would be. Putting aside the fifth demon god, doesn't Master Ju have no responsibility at all? Yabai, who was fishing on the battlefield, took the time to review his trip to the abyss. Needless to say about the record. Single kill the 1000 level demon ancestor, single kill the 1000 level 8th demon god, and single kill several salty fish monsters. It has to be said that after playing against level 1000 opponents, Yabai couldn't help but feel a little overwhelmed. Everyone seemed to be the first to win. As for the harvest, the third awakening of the Eye of Cruelty was Yabai's biggest gain this time. Although he usually makes fun of his most disdainful eyes, at critical moments, SSS level talents can still make a difference. Without the third awakening of Tan Yan, Yabai would not be able to hit the 8th demon god on the head even if he had the calamity in his hand. Search for enemies, lock on, hit. The best duels often use the simplest fighting methods. Why did Su Qingfen become the laughing stock among the 9th level war gods? According to common sense, there is no upper limit to his talent stack, and his own strength is not bad. He can fight and run at the same time, so there is a lot of room for theory. But in actual combat, Su Qingfeng's skills were too easy to hide from. He finally stacked up his talents, and the fatal damage that exploded was easily avoided by the opponent. It is precisely because of this that Su Qingfeng practiced archery in private, hoping to clear his name. As a result, he met the cheating Shura. If Shura doesn't cheat, the server explodes. The loss to the strongest seed did not leave any shadow in Su Qingfeng's heart. Joke. This is not the first time in his life that Lao Su has been embarrassed. Besides, he also has a Shura oven. No matter from which angle you look at it, Lao Su has won. It can be seen from Su Qingfeng that Tanyan is indeed very important. In addition to 3 awakenings, Ye Bai also harvested a bunch of miscellaneous abyss pearl fragments and the remnant soul of the 7th demon god sealed in the heavenly king's sword. Make a little profit. As for what you paid for the bones he made for third master, Ye Bai owed 400,000 god of war merit, and the money for the 21 materials ordered had not yet been paid. Thinking of this, Ye Bai felt so heartbroken that he couldn't breathe. We can't think about it any further. Don't be afraid of lice bites if there are too many. Can we call it debt if we owe money? As long as my strength improves quickly enough, the creditors will never be able to defeat me. Ahem. Considering that Wanwu Pavilion is the third brother's property, Ye Bai felt that it was still necessary to pay back the money. Mainly the awakening of conscience. After taking stock of the harvest, the battlefield was almost cleaned, and Ye Bai and others were gathered to the rear again. Brother Bai, something big happened. As soon as he returned to the rear base, Ye Bai met his old acquaintance Feng Dong. Feng Dong greeted Ye Bai warmly. Brother Bai, you almost couldn't see me. Feng Dong briefly described the thrilling experience between himself and Fit on the front line, and by the way, Lu Zanwang's breakthrough. Ye Bai couldn't help but sigh. Awesome. After some pleasantries, Feng Dong took Ye Bai to the back. Come on, let's go. My nephew is here too. He's having barbecue right now. Su Qingfeng is back. Ye Bai subconsciously wanted to refuse. It's better to say goodbye. Su War God has many things to do every day and the war is urgent. Don't waste his time. Ye Bai didn't forget it. The void fragments carried by the 5th demon god were picked up by Su Qingfeng. This fragment is very precious. It was Sun Li who got it? How unlucky. Lao Su took this fragment and determined that nothing good would happen to him. Feng Dong smiled and waved his hand. It's okay. The overall situation has been decided. He specifically asked you to come by name. Feng Dong didn't say it clearly, he just stopped there. A 9th level god of war, pulling Ye Bai to eat barbecue at a critical moment like war? If you think about it with the mind of a guy who blew himself up, you know there is something wrong here. Ye Bai frowned and immediately understood what was going on. He disappeared on the abyss battlefield for some time. Logically speaking, the suspicion has not been completely cleared at this time. Staying with Su Qingfeng looks like eating barbecue, but it's actually another kind of surveillance. Only when Shadow's report comes out will Ye Bai regain his innocence. Very good, very rigorous. The only problem is, Shadow is now under Ye Bai's control. After thinking about this, Ye Bai did not continue to refuse, but followed Feng Dong into a tent. There are many people who have similar experiences to Ye Bai. When Ye Bai arrived, there were already dozens of people in the tent, eating barbecue around the 4 ovens. Hello, old Su. Did you bring so many ovens? Before Ye Bai had time to get angry, Su Qingfeng took out another oven and asked Ye Bai to sit down. Come on, I still haven't finished the things I brought last time. Ye Bai. We still don't know how much food Lao Su took from Shura. Su Qingfeng, who was facing a disaster, still didn't realize it and asked Ye Bai to eat and drink well. Not only that, he also specifically whispered. The origin of these things must be kept secret. Ye Bai nodded and tried not to curse. Ye Bai looked around and found that Zhang Yun was also there. After returning from the 5th abyss, he was brought here not long after he woke up. However, Zhang Yun, dressed in black, was sitting in the corner, with a face that said keep away from strangers, so naturally no one tried to get close to him. Not long after, a group of people from the Blood Marine Corps came up and took Zhang Yun back. While roasting meat, Ye Bai casually sent a message to Ying Si, asking the other party who compiled the information about Ye Bai. Due to the existence of the historical inventor Shadow 9. Within Shadow, they are naturally familiar with compiling information. Edit, you can edit anything. Then, Ye Bai got a breathtaking answer. Ye Bai's information is compiled by Mr. Ying. After a moment of silence, Ye Bai sent a message to Ying Si. Fourth brother, please take a deduction from your performance this month. Film 4. Isn't it ridiculous to ask Mr. Ying to compile Shura's information? Can he make it up? Do you have this ability? Inside the tent, news kept reaching Su Qingfeng. People eating barbecue changed batch after batch. Some people are directly cleared of suspicion, some people still need to continue to observe, and some people can only consider how to use waste. After waiting for 2 hours, Su Qingfeng did not wait for Ye Bai's report, and even took the initiative to urge Shadow. Finally, a brief report was delivered to Su Qingfeng. After he opened it, he raised his eyebrows. Ye Bai lied. 5 big characters made Su Qingfeng feel that things were not simple. I saw it written on the report. Ye Bai said that he killed a level 100 demon. After Shadow's careful investigation and rigorous analysis, we finally came to a conclusion. He killed 2 level 100 monsters. Online games, only I can see hidden information. Author, Minjai Old Thief. Chapter 497. This is all such a mess. Looking at the information sent by the Shadow, Su Qingfeng felt speechless. Is it important to kill level 100 monsters? He's not a 9th level god of war. Putting the information aside, Su Qingfeng waved his hand, indicating that Ye Bai could leave. Due to the sudden attack of the demon tide, the original summer camp plan was disrupted. After Ye Bai returned to the camp, he immediately received a notice to prepare to return to Blue Star. In this way, the trip to the abyss of the summer camp came to an end. After walking out of the portal, Ye Bai's eyes flashed with white light and he squinted slightly. The sun was blazing in the sky, it was noon when they came back, and the time difference between the two sides had not yet reversed. Everyone returns to the dormitory to rest. If you feel uncomfortable, please contact the nearest instructor. Huo Tianyi, who lives next door to Ye Bai, has disappeared and has no idea where he is wandering in the abyss. When I think of Huo Tianyi, I think of the 1 million god of war he owes me. That's a full 2 million god of war merit. If these 3 million god of war merits can be returned to him, Ye Bai can pay off his foreign debts and become debt-free. Ye Bai didn't stay in the dormitory for too long. He is now level 499, a 9th level war god in frontal combat, and has even single-handedly killed level 1000 enemies. With such physical fitness, do you need jet lag? No need at all. Unable to rest, Ye Bai called Ying Si over from the Eternal Forest. Under the cover of the other party, he sneaked towards the Eternal Forest. Deep in the Eternal Forest, there is a tower. Just when Ye Bai came to the bottom of the tower, a white cloud fell right in front of him. Ye Bai didn't rush to sit on it, but observed it carefully. The Eternal Tower really has no shadow. When they were in the abyss before, Ying San mentioned something to Ye Bai about the origin of Ying Yi. In other words, Shadow 1 is the shadow of the Eternal Tower. But Ye Bai had an extra thought and specifically asked if Ying Yi was related to Taling. I got a negative answer from Ying San. Who is Taling? It can be listed as one of the top 10 unsolved mysteries of the Eternal Tower. After confirming the shadow, Ye Bai sat on the white cloud and soared up to the 99th floor. Soon, Ye Bai returned to his familiar place of chatting friends. Ye Bai decided to talk about some happy topics first. That, I used desolate tribulation, and struck the eighth demon god, and then he died. In front of the third brother, Ye Bai did not mention the single kill. Ye Bai still knew when to say something. Xiaoao and I join forces to kill the eighth demon. If you say this to the outside world, wouldn't it be too much to praise the eighth demon god? A most powerful person, plus a most powerful seed, join forces to deal with the eighth demon. The most card-worthy devil in history belongs to him. I know. After the Taoist finished speaking, he paused, thought for a moment, and added. I gave you Huangjia, but I didn't want you to kill him. As if afraid that Shura would misunderstand, the Taoist added. Just kill him, it doesn't matter. The Taoist's tone was very calm. Killing a demon god was as simple as killing a chicken or a sheep. After hearing Xiaoao's words, Ye Bai seemed to understand. Xiaoao's original intention was not to plot against the eighth demon god. Even if he had to scheme, Xiaoao had an easier way, and he didn't need to borrow Shura's hand. Ye Bai Wangji was given to him for self-defense when he was in the eighth abyss. Based on Xiaoao's understanding of Shura, if a monster above level 990 rushed towards Shura, Ye Bai would not hesitate to use Huangji. What he didn't expect was that Ye Bai was stunned this time. Monsters above level 990 have not taken the initiative to find Ye Bai, but he dared to find trouble with the eighth demon. In the human race's original plan, Wuhan, Xuemeng and others served as mobile forces, ready to respond to emergencies at any time. The seventh and eighth demon gods rose up and launched an attack, which was also expected by the human race. If everything goes according to plan. After Shura collects the heroic spirits from the seventh and eighth abyss, Wuhan will take action and kill the two demon gods with one sword. It was precisely because of this that Ye Bai brought the news of the death of the eighth demon god, causing Wuhan to kill the seventh demon god twice with his sword. In other words, Xiaoao, miscalculation. Xiaoao thought for a while and spoke again. This is the second time I've miscalculated. Ye Bai raised his eyebrows and blurted out, what about the first time? As soon as he said the words, Ye Bai regretted it. Everyone has this kind of curiosity. But if you ask the third brother, does the third brother have no face? First time? I told you. Xiaoao thought Ye Bai might have forgotten, so he repeated. I once helped a friend to calculate that the human race needs at least 9 generations of the most powerful people who are willing to fight against the most powerful demon at all costs in order to completely destroy the most powerful demon. Ye Bai swallowed and asked carefully. Is this friend you are talking about Tolling? Xiaoao said without hesitation, yes. Seeing that Shura was interested in this topic, Xiaoao repeated what happened back then. The tower spirit asked me to calculate which race of humans and demons can win. Ye Bai quickly asked, what's the result? I calculated that the demons would win. Xiaoao sighed and said helplessly. Unfortunately, the calculation was wrong. Ye Bai. It's so beautiful, third brother. The tower spirit has been tricked, what does it have to do with my human race? Ye Bai picked some more topics to talk about, and Xiaoao listened most of the time, humming from time to time. After a while, Ye Bai had nothing to say. The Taoist was inside the pagoda and the Shura was outside the pagoda. They were speechless. Xiaoao looked to the sky, and there was a white cloud there. According to past habits, if the silence lasts for a long time, Shura will take the initiative to leave, and the conversation will end here. The white clouds in the distance turned into butterflies and then into a knife. The most disdainful eye has already begun to wail. When we met before, at least it was the incarnation of a white cloud, a butterfly, or something like that. Xiaoao remembered again that 2 days ago, he went to Shura's exclusive space. Just when Ye Bai was thinking wildly. Now entering the 99th floor, you will see the true form of Xiaoao. Did you miss the opportunity to visit the 99th floor due to your own hesitation? Treat others in their own way. As the teacher explained, You should treat others as others treat you. No. Yabai nodded and prepared to walk into the 99th floor of the Eternal Tower. Even Tanyan, who is offline, prompts pop up like crazy at this moment. Even Yabai couldn't guess what the third brother was thinking. Thinking of this, Xiaoao felt something was wrong. The 99th floor is related to the subsequent awakening. Yabai thought about it and found that there seemed to be no reason to refuse. As a result, a door opened on the outside of the 99th floor of the Eternal Tower. Enter. Xiaoao suddenly remembered that the teacher once taught him a sentence. That door suddenly closed. Come in and sit down. This isn't appropriate. This sentence is quite true, and the reverse is also true. On the 99th floor of the Eternal Tower, the Taoist's disembodied voice came out. Third brother invites me like this, can I really refuse? If you have never faced Xiaoao, you will not understand the terrible feeling of oppression. In other words, he had been to Shura's house, but Shura had never been to his house. Good. Yabai hesitated for a moment and was in a dilemma. Must enter. What's going on? Knock first. Yabai. The Taoist's voice came from behind the door. Not to be missed. Yabai. Online games, only I can see hidden information. Author, Minjai Old Thief. Chapter 498. Dong dong dong. After Yabai tidied up his clothes, he knocked on the door carefully 3 times. The door opened again. Yabai did not hesitate, crossed the threshold, and entered the 99th floor. Wow, this is the 99th floor. Not enough power. Before Tanyan could get excited, he was forced to fall into a deep sleep. Yabai didn't look around, but looked slightly forward. A Taoist priest appeared in front of him. Xiaoao, Yabai had seen him before, and he still looked like a middle-aged Taoist. It looks like an ordinary face, but I can never remember it. As long as I look away, I can no longer remember what Xiaoao looks like. As for the clothes, every time I see third brother, he is wearing a white cloud Taoist robe, which is unshakable. But this time, when Yabai's eyes fell on the Taoist robe, his pupils shrank slightly, and his eyes were full of shock. He saw a vague pattern on the white cloud Taoist robe, like a butterfly with open wings. Yabai didn't know for a moment whether this was a good thing or a bad thing. Few people are qualified to participate in discussions on matters related to the freedom of the strongest. In other words, everything related to Xiaoao is absolutely confidential. If Master Ju was still in Blue Star, Yabai could of course ask Master Ju directly. But the problem now is, Ju Ye has run away. Asked Menzi, I don't know anything about it. It's not appropriate to talk to other people. After thinking about it, Yabai could only ask his second brother when he saw him next time. Only Wuhan is suitable to talk about this topic. However, given the second brother's character of slashing with a sword in everything, Yabai suspected that the second brother didn't have any serious opinions. After remembering this matter in his heart, a futon appeared in front of Yabai. Sit. Yabai sat on the futon. Well behaved. Jpg. The middle-aged Taoist walked towards the edge of the space and said as he walked. Teacher went to the abyss and will be back in about 3 months. Yabai nodded, indicating that he knew. The road that Third Master Ying went to dig was probably related to the abyss of the strongest. As Xiaoao moved around, Yabai's eyes also wandered around the 99th floor. It was different from Yabai's imagination. The 99th floor is an empty white space. There is nothing except Taoist priests, futons, and white clouds. Yabai remembered what Master Fool once mentioned about the appearance of Xiaoao's exclusive space, and it was exactly the same as before. His. Could it be that third brother has put his own exclusive space on the 99th floor? Don't break into the Eternal Tower in the next few days. Yabai nodded, understood. It has only been a few days since the last time I was stuck with a level 5's bug on level 30. Xiaoao continued. When the teacher comes back, you will have a chance to choose. Choose. What choice? Ye Bai didn't think much about it, but kept it in his heart. Since it's a choice, just make another choice when the time comes. If that doesn't work, Ye Bai can still choose to have them all. If Xiaoao doesn't talk about something, it means that he doesn't want to talk about it now. It's no use asking. Ye Bai has almost figured out how to chat with Xiaoao. There is nothing unexpected on the 99th floor. Ye Bai was not disappointed, but curious. Ye Bai took the initiative to ask. That third, what is the content of the 99th floor? He is the most powerful seed, the most powerful person in the future, and sooner or later he will reach the 99th level. It makes sense to know the content of the level in advance, right? Xiaoao said calmly. That was it before I came here. Ye Bai asked, what about before? Before? Xiaoao's tone was a little confused. Haven't you seen it before? Ye Bai. When had he seen it? Xiaoao pointed to the forest outside the tower and below the Eternal Tower. Hiss. Ye Bai's scalp was really numb this time. The Eternal Forest was moved from the Eternal Tower. Ye Bai walked to the door, stuck his head out, and looked down. I had never enjoyed the scenery of the Eternal Forest while chatting here before. In fact, from the 99th floor, you can overlook the entire Eternal Forest. The image of the forest was etched into Ye Bai's pupils. His Adam's apple moved slightly and his scalp felt numb. This forest is an ugly heart. As for whose handwriting it is, there is no need to say more. Brother, YYDS. Ye Bai was extremely shocked. It seems unexpected, but it is actually reasonable. According to the rules of the Eternal Tower, after reaching the 99th floor, you will have extremely high authority. Moving out of the Eternal Forest doesn't seem too outrageous. No wonder, the rules of the Eternal Forest are so powerful, capable of suppressing monsters and serving as the first line of defense for the human race. After Ye Bai learned the truth, it took him a while to recover. In order to ease his shock, Ye Bai asked casually. When are you going to break through the 100th floor? Xiaoao answered seriously. 35 years and 264 days ago. Ye Bai. Third brother, are you serious? Seeing that Shura seemed a little confused, Xiaoao explained. Every powerful person has passed the 100th floor. In other words, only those who have passed the 100th floor are worthy of being called the strongest. Ye Bai was confused. Then why are you on this floor? Regardless of whether they were humans or demons, all the senior officials thought that Xiaoao was stuck on the 99th floor and often had to retreat into the tower. Who knew that Xiaoao had already cleared the level? Xiaoao gave a very happy explanation. Pure. The 99th floor, after being evacuated by the nightmare, was empty and extremely pure. It's not that Xiaoao is trapped on the 99th floor. But Xiaoao lives on the 99th floor. Ye Bai felt numb. Several back and forth conversations brought too much information, and he couldn't accept it for a while. Xiaoao also noticed that it always seemed to scare Shura if he asked Shura to take the initiative to ask questions. Being scared too many times is not good. So, Xiaoao spoke again. You can ask me one more question. Just ask one question and Shura won't be overly frightened. The Taoist's words made Ye Bai fall into silence. You only get one chance, what should you ask? When will Master Ju come back? When will the most powerful demon die? Can you survive to level 1000? So many questions to ask. According to common sense, Ye Bai has an eye of insight and should be able to discern the answers to these questions. Who calls it crumbs? After a moment of silence, Ye Bai asked the question that he was most curious about, and Xiaoao could easily answer it. What do you call your SSS level talent? When asked this question, Ye Bai was very nervous and his heart was pounding. He was afraid that the third brother would ask, which SSS level talent are you talking about? Fortunately, the third brother's problem is not that big. After hearing Ye Bai's question, Xiaoao did not show off, but answered seriously in 4 words. My heart is at ease. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Online games, only I can see hidden information. Author, Minjio Old Thief. Chapter 499. Am I happy? Isn't this too idealistic? Ye Bai wrote down these 4 words in his heart and said nothing more. He remembered that he had heard someone mention that SSS level talents were related to the most powerful demon. My own eyes are my eyes, my nightmares dreams come true is my brain, and my heart is happy is my heart. Ye Bai didn't sit there for long before Xiaoao was ready to see off the guests. The last time he went to Shura's exclusive space, he didn't go there for long. Wait a mini-nude. Ye Bai organized his words and said hesitantly. I came here in a hurry and didn't bring anything valuable. It's not a good look to visit someone with nothing. Ye Bai looked around his exclusive space, but there really wasn't anything he could take out. The last time Xiaoao went to see a doctor for himself, he also left himself a soul job change tool. This time it was Ye Bai's turn to visit. There was no room for ambiguity in terms of etiquette. Finally, Ye Bai took out a tree from his exclusive space, held it in his hand, and asked tentatively. Shake it? This is the most valuable thing in Ye Bai's hand. He had no intention of giving the money tree to his third brother. Even if you give it away, Xiaoao probably won't take it. Shake it happily and see what you get. When Shura gives gifts, the gift is light but the affection is heavy. The money tree is not omnipotent, and the various treasures shaken out of it do not appear out of thin air. According to Zhao Qian's explanation to Ye Bai, the money tree itself stores a certain amount of energy, which can also be called money ability. These banknote abilities will transform into various types of treasures. On the one hand, the supplement of money power relies on the money tree itself to absorb it over time, and on the other hand, it requires throwing money. Watering the money tree with eternal gold coins can replenish the money capacity. Generally speaking, the more valuable the treasure is, the more money power is consumed, and the more eternal gold coins are needed. If Xiaoao shakes the money tree, he may be able to drain out the money capacity of the entire money tree. From this perspective, Ye Bai's gift was indeed not a light one. After hearing Ye Bai's words, Xiaoao thought for a moment and did not refuse. Instead, he stretched out his hand and shook it casually on the money tree. The money tree that was originally only half a meter high began to skyrocket. In the blink of an eye, it rose to nearly 2 meters. Ye Bai, who was holding the money tree, had questions all over his head. Xiaoao saw his confusion and explained. If it goes up any higher, it will damage the quality. Shura should understand the principle of destroying the seedlings and encouraging them to grow. That's not what I meant. Ye Bai didn't know how to explain this for a while. He is here to give a gift. He has no intention of harvesting the wool. Let's go back. Xiaoao yawned and did not let Ye Bai continue to explain. The door opened again, and Bai Yun appeared outside. Ye Bai, who was holding a 2-meter-high money tree, sat blankly on the white clouds and returned to the ground in the blink of an eye. Ying Si, who was waiting on the spot, couldn't help but take a breath when he saw Shura's appearance. Ying Si sighed in his heart. As expected of the fourth master, he dared to harvest Xiaoao's wool. Shadow 4 had always kept a respectful distance from the most powerful. The gap in strength is so great that, to a certain extent, they no longer exist in the same world. Fourth brother. Fourth brother. Before Ye Bai could go far, a wealthy figure hurried over. When I heard you were coming, I immediately, fuck, what happened? Looking at the 2-meter-high money tree in Ye Bai's hand, Zhao Qian couldn't help but curse. The money tree, when he gave it to Shura, was only half a meter tall and still a sapling. The eternal gold coins required for the growth of the money tree are very terrifying. A half-meter-high money sapling can grow to 2 meters. Even with Zhao Qian's financial resources, it would be difficult to achieve this level. Seeing Zhao Qian's reaction, Ye Bai, who was holding the money tree, smiled. Great. Let's talk business first. Zhao Qian took his eyes back from the money tree and said seriously. I just received the latest news from Sun Li. Ye Bai couldn't help but be curious, what did he say? Logically speaking, Sun Li finally thought out and overcame the difficulties. It's a good time for him to show off his power. Why is there no trace of Sun Li in this war? Zhao Qian paused and said word by word. Sun Li said that he has dived into the abyss of the strongest. Ye Bai. Regarding this unfortunate news, Ye Bai has only one blessing. I hope Mr. Zhu is okay. In the mighty abyss, Huo Tianwang smashed the head of a monster with one punch, which was particularly easy. After entering the supreme abyss, Huo Tianwang's strength increased day by day, and he had already established a firm foothold at level 999. He is the type of being who gets stronger as he fights, and there are countless monsters in the abyss. It is an absolute paradise for fighting madmen like Huo Tianwang. King Huo Tian looked back and saw that Yingju was still fighting hard. King Huo Tianwang frowned and began to have bad breath. You're so slow to pull out the knife, you haven't eaten yet. Stop talking sarcastically. The light of the sword flashed across, and Yingju fought back several monsters with difficulty. King Huo Tian stepped forward, punching non-stop and calling names one by one. Boom! Boom! After a few punches, all the monsters were cleared away, and the two of them left the battlefield at the same time, hiding themselves again. While running away, Huo Tianwang did not forget to say sarcastically. Laoju, it's only been 2 days, and your blood shadow problem is getting worse and worse. I am happy with it, can you take care of it? Generally speaking, to deal with Huo Tianwang's bad mouth, Yingju can just rely on a knife. At this moment, I can't bring myself to use the knife, so I can only hold back for a while. Etc. King Huo Tian stopped, took out the map again, and analyzed it carefully. There are too many monsters on this road. There is no problem with the route, it is the shortest direction to the destination. But walking on this road, I always encounter powerful monsters inexplicably, and the condition of Yingju's blood shadow continues to deteriorate. Use 4 words to summarize what happened to the two of them: extremely unlucky. This kind of bad luck is very abnormal, and even evokes some kind of psychological shadow in King Huo Tianwang. King Huo Tian couldn't help but ask. Laoju, does this road look familiar to you? Yingju was stunned for a moment, recalling that year. It looks familiar. It seems that I escaped through this road back then. Yingju was very surprised. How did Lao Huo know? Oops. King Huo Tianwang held his forehead, his face full of helplessness, and said fiercely. We can't go down this road. Yingju seemed to have thought of something, a little unbelievable. You don't mean? Back then, to escape from the abyss of power, Yingju alone was not enough. Few people know that the lucky man who accompanied Yingju to escape from the abyss of power. That man's surname was Sun and his first name was Li. After thinking about this, the two of them made a decision at the same time: change the road. King Huo Tian said with certainty. Sun Li has walked this road and it is already dirty. Online games, only I can see hidden information. Author, Minjai Old Thief. Chapter 500. Sun Li ran to the abyss of the strongest. Ye Bai, who knew the truth, almost shed tears. So good. Sun Li, who is so unlucky, will definitely not be as good as Master Ju and others after going to the abyss of the strongest. Different world, same Sun Li. In other words, Sun Li will not appear in the Eternal Tower in a short time, let alone near Ye Bai. In this way, Ye Bai avoids the possibility of being affected by bad luck. Brother, I just have something to ask you. Ye Bai pulled Zhao Qian aside and asked in a low voice. I just came out of the 99th floor. What? Zhao Qian was frightened again. What the hell is coming out of the 99th floor? Are you also the strongest? Don't panic, your boss called me into chat for a few words and then sent me out. Ye Bai waved his hand, indicating that this was not the point. The key point is the Taoist robe. Ye Bai briefly described the new butterfly pattern that appeared on the Taoist robe. After hearing this, Zhao Qian also looked solemn, as if facing a formidable enemy. I have been following my boss for more than 30 years, and apart from white clouds, there have never been butterflies on my Taoist robes. Then what do you think we should do? When it comes to Xiaoyao, there are only a few people Ye Bai can discuss with. Zhao Qian is Xiaoyao's designated agent. Apart from his second brother, Ye Bai can only go to him. I'll go ask Wuhan first, and then ask Sun Li to ask Yingju. Zhao Qian paced in place, walked back and forth several times, and made up his mind. Fourth brother, if it really doesn't work, you can ask the person in your exclusive space for help. Ye Bai was a little confused. There is only one boss in his exclusive space, Master Fool. Isn't it inappropriate to ask a demon about Xiaoyao? Zhao Qian also knew that this was an extraordinary move and explained. Don't worry, wait until I ask Wuhan before you consider what to do next. Okay, I'll wait for your news. After the two agreed, they split up. Ye Bai returned to his dormitory first and waited for the follow-up. Under the cover of Shadow 4, Ye Bai returned successfully. Fourth Master, I have something to report to you. Ying Si took out a ledger and introduced. After the last competition, including bonuses and various expenses, Shadow still has a balance of 9.6 million God of War merits. This month's salary expenditure is about 1.6 million God of War merits, and the income is 1.2 million God of War merits. Expenses have skyrocketed because the establishments of Shadow 1, Shadow 2, and Shadow 3 have all returned to Shadow. As for income, on the one hand, the global live broadcast income of the competition, on the other hand, Shuemeng provides more wool. Even so, there is still a difference of 400,000. While reporting, Ying Si glanced at Shura and found that his mental endurance was okay, so he continued. Lian Liancan, accompanied by Wang Tianwang, has gone to the vicinity of Shadow Castle and can purify the blood shadow at any time. It's said to be escorting, but actually it's surveillance. Lian Liancan has too much dark history, and Zhang Ziyuan is one of his victims. Moreover, as the former leader of the fourth demon cult, Lian Lian did many bad things and his hands were full of blood. In this case, it would be foolish to trust him unconditionally. Don't let Wang Tianwang spy. Ye Bai shook his head, not trusting Su Qingfeng, the god of war. After thinking about it, Ye Bai corrected. Let Ying Ai come, we can't be careless about this. Purifying the blood shadow is Shadow's top priority. The shadow in the blood shadow state is in pain all the time. Even in deep sleep, this is the case. The sooner you can purify successfully, the sooner you can escape from the sea of suffering. With Ying Yi watching, Lian Liancan had no chance to cause trouble. If something unexpected happened, Ying Yi could help solve it. Fourth Master, I have another question. Ying Si hesitated for a moment, then said bravely. The awakened blood shadows need to settle their allowances over the years, and there is also the issue of their placement. The former is a matter of money, which is easy to say. Anything that can be solved with money is nothing. The placement issue is the most troublesome. Take Zhang Ziyuan, for example. He broke through to the god of war in the state of blood shadow, but after the purification was completed, he was suppressed back to the king of war due to the influence of the shadow pattern. Another example is Lao Liu's three brothers. After being purified from the blood shadow, the three war gods were also suppressed and became war kings. The demon lord arrives on the battlefield in 0.5 seconds. There can only be 100 war gods in the shadow, and the number of war kings is also limited. There are more than 9 million god of war merits on the account, and he is tough when he speaks. The subsidy will be paid as usual, and I will find a way to make up for the lack of money. As Shura's strength increases, there is no need to continue this kind of protection. Ye Bai frowned and spoke again. This leek-colored hat has only one function, to provide early warning before Shura enters the exclusive space. After seeing Offying Si, Ye Baiqian fell asleep for a while. Just a second before Ye Bai appeared, a hat on Dracula's head began to flash green. The human race does not have enough war god level combat power, and many places on the front line are still short of manpower. This way, it creates a huge waste. Ye Bai is now at level 499. Sleeping is more of a way to relax for him. Ye Bai laughed awkwardly but politely twice, a white light flashed, and Ye Bai disappeared from the place. Before entering the exclusive space, he subconsciously lowered his head and wanted to say hello to the third master. Exclusive space. He saved a lot of private money, put it together, and asked Master Fool to build this piece of equipment. Before leaving, Yang Si left a message. A first-level soldier can fight for a week without sleep. Suddenly I remembered that the third master was gone too. Yang Si nodded, understood. This news is not sudden. Ye Bai also knew that the most powerful demon god had always had thoughts about his most powerful seed. After waking up, Ye Bai got up and washed himself briefly. In fact, there is only one purpose, to put Shura under Xiao Ao's nose and ensure his safety. If the third brother hadn't suppressed him, the most powerful demon would have rushed out long ago. Due to the changes in the situation on the front line, the defense line of the Eternal Forest needs to be reorganized. The United Legion requires at least 10 War God level shadows to be stationed. Fourth Master, what do you think of the arrangements? Also, summer camp is cancelled. Dracula spent 0.5 seconds and screamed in the sky to remind others. If Ye Bai is further away from the Eternal Tower, Xiao Ao will face less pressure. As for the issue of placement, don't be impatient. Give me some time to study it. This summer camp was organized, ostensibly, to strengthen human geniuses and allow these genius seeds to grow faster. If the problem of limit cannot be solved, the shadow will be extremely involuted and suffer from high-intensity internal friction. In fact, after entering the Eternal Tower, sleeping is no longer a necessity. After everything was reported, most of the things were done according to the previous rules, and Ye Bai made the decision for the rest.